Hey guys, welcome to the lokius analysis that I promised all of you in the last video, okay? So first, we have to ask ourselves a question, or I have to ask myself a question. Do I think Lokius is canon? Yes, I do. I very much do think it's canon. I think it's implied canon. If we're trying to get into specifics here, oh, my hair got stuck. Seeing how sad Mobius was, he was literally the only one who cared that Loki was gone. And everyone else literally just moved on. And we didn't get a silky confirmation. Which, a win is a win. So, Now getting into the real meat of this. Lokius is really, and I want to say this, really the one of the most ideal gay ships you can have. It's not very toxic. It certainly is tragic, but not tragic and toxic. Because there's like a certain flavor to some of these gay ships I've been seeing recently. And one that comes to mind immediately is, I don't know if you guys like Fight Club, but Tyler X Narrator. That one, if you know, you know. That one's very toxic by a long shot. And yeah, I just think that Lokius is like a very good ship, actually. If it was confirmed, it would be awesome representation. And yeah, that's all I have to really say about like the ship itself. Now time to get into the ship. Like I said, we were getting into the meat. This is really the meat. This is really the meal of the this is the 4-course meal. Okay, this is the main part. Lokius, if I were to say what it's about, I think it's definitely about trust. I think it's about growing. And I think it's about coming out of your shell and being exposed to new things that you've never been exposed to before. And one of those things was definitely love, especially on Loki's part, but also on Mobius's part. Because, like, he's never, obviously, he wouldn't remember if he was ever in, like, a romantic relationship on the timeline, which he was. But I don't count Mobius and Dawn as the same character because they're inherently different. Like, Mobius doesn't remember being Dawn at all. So, and yeah, so this relationship was just about general love and general trust for Mobius and Loki. And sometimes this is, I delve into like Loki's daddy issues a lot and Loki's like life leading up to this a lot in this. Sometimes I think that the reason Mobius cares for Loki a lot is because he was a father on his timeline, and so he naturally has like a lot of patience, as we can see with his kid Kevin, who has the torches, who is noted to be similar to Loki in some aspects. I'm not saying that this means that Mobius is supposed to be like a father figure for Loki. I just mean it's supposed to be like a solution to Loki's daddy issues. And he's like, it's like Sigmund Freud. It's like Sigmund Freud. Ugh, if you know, you know. This video is going to be all over the place. I don't usually do videos like this, so please have some patience with me. And Mobius being a father and watching Loki's life and seeing both of Loki's fathers, biological and adopted, which would be Laufey, I think that's how you pronounce his name, and Odin, fail him time and time again, watching them abandon him and outcast him time and time again, I feel like that would develop a soft spot for Loki in Mobius, like naturally, because again, he was a father on his timeline life, and there are like certain you can see Mobius in Dawn, and you can see Dawn in Mobius, because temporal aura or something, and they carry over traits, you know. stuff like that. And Mobius being able to view Loki's life like that and being able to study every single moment of his life gives Mobius an understanding that quite literally nobody else would have, because nobody else has had the chance to sit there and watch his life like Mobius has. Literally. And so he studied him and he's watched his entire life. And so he understands Loki to a new level. Unprecedented for anyone else in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And don't mind the camera shaking. It's because I'm shaking my head a lot and headphones are connected. Loki has always been someone who has never been able to trust anyone. And so he pushes people away. He tends to push people away a lot with his arrogance and self-importance. But that doesn't work on someone like Mobius, someone who understands him like the back of his hand. He knows it's a facade. And if you say that the arrogance and self-importance is a facade, we literally saw it crumble in the Loki series. I don't know what you want me to say. Loki knows deep down that he is an outcast, that he doesn't have a sense of belonging anywhere. Like, even in his own family, he is an outcast on both sides, biological and adoptive. And so from day one, he has had this mindset of, I've got to look out for me. Nobody else will. I am my own number one. And that sort of built up a sort of arrogance and self-importance, like, I'm the only one who matters, basically. And I think Loki sort of knows that this is a facade, that none of this is real, and he plays it up. I think he knows, definitely in his mind, and he thinks nobody else can see it. But Mobius can, as he's literally seen every moment of his life. He's seen the buildup. He's seen the buildup to this. So he would know. Because if you've watched Thor 1, Loki is like very unrecognizable from his most iconic self, being like, I'm Loki, like sort of narcissistic, but he's not a true narcissist in the fact that he genuinely believes he's the best person on earth. There is an act to it, to a certain extent, at least. And Loki is a very tragic character, so it makes sense that Lokius did end in tragedy. It's very fitting for him as a character. Because, all Loki fans can agree that Loki is the trauma-dumping OC that Marvel loves to shit on constantly. Make his life horrible. Like, no one can even imagine. He never gets what he wants because Loki is described as a loser. Loki's always lose. And what I found interesting about the end was that Loki, his goal sort of shifted, but a long-term goal he had was to get a throne. He did get a throne, but when he got to the throne, I think he sort of realized a little bit before and during that he didn't want a throne. He wanted the reassurance and the praise and like almost the stability of a throne. Because like people are gonna think the best of you. They're gonna bow down to you. They're gonna think you're the hottest thing since sliced bread. Like, but he realized he could find that in his friends at the TVA. He realized he could find that in Mobius. And so his goal shifted to wanting to save his friends, but he ultimately had to sacrifice himself for his friends by going to this throne. And, he's thought he's always wanted this, but he's realizing now that he just didn't want to be alone. And it's very tragic. I cried. Believe me, I know. And on to Mobius. This whole Lokius thing, people always focus on Loki as the soul. Like, only recently people have been focusing on Mobius as in his role in Lokius and how he views things. Loki was eye-opening for Mobius, but Before Loki, all he knew was the TVA was eating key lime pie, sipping coffee, going through files, da 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 da. That's all he knew. And then he knew Loki, and he fell in love. And as soon as Loki was ripped away from him, he was devastated. He was destroyed. He was lost in thought as you saw him at his desk with the coffee just sitting there like that in the background until someone came up to him. Everyone was seemingly able to move on. If you notice that in episode 6, everyone was able to move on except for Mobius. Because Loki leaving left him with nothing. It left him with no purpose, which is interesting. The title being Glorious Purpose, which is obviously a callback to episode 1. But it's also interesting because Mobius sort of loses his purpose. Because before he was fine being purposeless, he didn't know anything. He was blissfully ignorant, I'm going to say. And now his eyes are open and he's sort of burdened with this knowledge. You know what I mean? That he has free will. He's burdened with it. With the fact that he did have a life on the timeline. All he can do is watch it now. And he's not just something made by 3 lizards in cloaks. He's burdened by the fact that his whole life has been a lie, sort of like Loki, and it all circles back. Notice how that all circles back. And he just watches what could have been for the rest of eternity. And you can see it in Mobius's eyes, the burden of nothing, of having nothing left, and just sitting there to watch dawn. It's not like he can go back to his timeline. He's watching the timeline. Loki taught him how to open up and break out of his shell. It was just about... their relationship was a lot of trust built for each other. And I know it's especially for Loki, but it was also for Mobius. I don't want anyone to forget that. Because Lokius was about Loki in the same way it was about Mobius. And I want people to recognize that. Because they are similar. Because looking back now, retrospectively, their stories are obviously... Mobius' story is not as intricate or painful. But they have sort of the same... Their life was a lie from the beginning. They learn. They love. And now they have to accept a big burden of glorious purpose and unglorious purposelessness. Just kind of a word salad. And yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about that. It got a little intense at the end there. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a lot of ranting and rambling. Very not on topic a lot of the time. It was a little messy in the beginning. I hope you enjoyed. This was all done in like one take. Probably like a little editing. Yeah. Thanks for watching my lokius analysis. I'll probably go deeper to this in like a part 2 if I find anything else to say, but this is all I have to say right now. So thanks for watching the video. Have fun, have a good life, and continue to ship Lokius forever.